are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Hit the record button.
Gosh, that's swell.
Hello. This is
Hello.
Italo's Black Talk Radio. And hello, Heather. How are you?
Hi, Vicar. How are you?
Good. This is our first time talking, isn't it?
It is. Isn't that fun? We've been living in the virtual world, and now we finally get to just speak one-on-one.
Right. It actually, as I was making, I'm making the networking yesterday, doing the rounds at the the bar with all the office hours people. Right, and actually I was just leaving. I was leaving, and then Teresa stopped me. She's like, "Hi, Victor, come over here," and then we started talking, and then next to her was this guy, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I'm like, "Oh, and by the way, what's your show about?" And then he starts talking about, so my wife and, he didn't say his wife. He said his wife. Anyways, he started talking about, the show, and then he showed me I think he mentioned the name. Have you heard of Heather Dowling? And I'm like, yes. Actually, matter of fact, I'm talking to her tomorrow.
Like, yeah.
And he was like, you are?
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to Yeah, for our show Fertile, my husband Mike has just been a champion because, that the events at Fringe and the demand of time is significant. And he has been such an awesome sport that when I can't be there, he is always there handing out flyers and talking about the show. So, yeah, he's a champion.
Yeah, he was doing a great job. And he... but by the time he was done with his spiel, and I'm like, oh yeah, I already know. I'm talking to her tomorrow. And he's like, what?
That's hilarious.
So but we had a good time last night, and so I'm like, well, you'll hear about it tomorrow when we have the interview. So, anyways, for those who are listening for the first time or they never heard the show, this Hollywood Fringe Festival thing. So we're talking about Hollywood Fringe Festival. Obviously, this is happening already in June. It's already May 2nd, but it's very exciting because the tickets went on sale yesterday, and everybody's stressed out.
They sure did. Yeah, and really busy and trying to connect with press and getting their programs ready, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and flyers have been exchanged, and numbers have been exchanged, and friends are being made, and or we call it friendships.
Friendships. Friendships.
Right.
It's funny because our first show. Yeah, my first show was back in the first show I ever did at Fringe. My first solo show too was in 2015, and the friendships I made there have lasted ever since. Like some of my favorite people in life here in LA, I got to meet as a result of being attached to the Hollywood Fringe Festival. And I can't remember how many years it's been, but in action. But I mean, aren't they close this year, Victor, to like 400 shows this year?
Yeah. Last year it was 400. It was 398 or something like that. It was like really that close to 400. And I think this year will probably be as much or more. Don't know yet. I've been asking people, and they're like, they don't know. No, nobody has had the time to count them all, but
to count it, yeah. How did
there's a lot.
I always wondered, Victor, how did you get connected to Hollywood Fringe? I've never heard that story.
Oh, okay. Well, a friend of mine, his name is Christian. He had a show 2 years ago, so I went to see his show. It was a solo show called A House of Me. Anyways, I saw it at the complex, and then I saw all these people around, and I'm like, what's happening? I mean, he had told me it was a festival, but it didn't click, until I was like, oh, okay, this is a lot of people going to theater, right? And so the next year, when I was doing my own, I decided to do my show. last year, and then I heard about Hollywood Fringe, and so I went to theater scouting, and then I stumbled upon the one theater. It was the Actors Company that I decided to go with last year, and she told us all about Lauren told us all about the festival, and I'm like, then it clicked. I'm like, oh, that's what was happening last year. And so
there were so many people down on Theater Row all of a sudden. Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. And I'm like, oh my Lord, yes, I want to do this. So yeah,
Get in on it.
Then the festival was wonderful, and I did a lot of I met a lot of people, a lot of friendships were made, and this year I am helping a friend of mine who happened to be in my show last year, and she's doing her own show about the Little Prince, the journey of the Little Prince. And so I'm all gung ho supporting her and co-producing with her. But this year I decided to do something different because, as you know, we don't get enough press, we don't get enough recognition, we don't get airtime on TV or on radio.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I have my own platform, so why not?
Well, good for you. I think it's a really great thing that you're doing, because what you said is so true, that, a theater in LA so often falls to the back seat. But in reality, at least in my experience, I have seen so many stunning and creative and original, unique performances at these fringe festivals since I got involved back in 2015. And, there's so much artistry that's not being recognized. So any attention we can draw to get people to discover Hollywood Fringe and come meet all these incredible performers and writers and directors, even some of the stage managers, composers. Two of my favorite composers I met at the Hollywood Fringe.
There you go.
So yeah, it's an extraordinary opportunity, and I thank you for inviting me to talk with you, about my show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's talk about your show. Actually, I wanted to I had so many things to ask you, but I'll let you set the synopsis and tell us about your show before I dive into all these questions.
Okay, great. So it's my show, Fertile, is a conversation about the expectations of procreation. And it came to life because my first solo show in the Hollywood Fringe in 2015 was called Unemployed Finally, the story of a woman with more than 30 jobs and 30 years before doing what she wanted. That was mine. That was completely autobiographical, and it was the story of how I went from always trying to find the right job to actually following my dreams to be a writer and an actress. And one of the moments in that show had to do with the challenges my husband and I ran into when we decided to try to start a family. And it was a small part of the show, really, in the scope of an hour, but the response was amazing. Like what I heard from women and men and couples about their experiences when it came to trying to start families, or what they had been through trying to start families, or the fact that the pressure they experienced, that they had to hurry up and do it even if they weren't sure they wanted it, and people who had been through some pretty heartbreaking loss, and women who'd been through the fertility challenges I went through physically and medically, that felt like they had never had anyone to talk to about it. And it kind of wouldn't go away. That was 4 years ago, and it started to percolate that this is something people need to talk about. They need to get it off their chest, and there's so much taboo around it because it's connected to sex and religion and relationships, and even, gender identities, and all this gets collapsed into it because, should people who are not in a heterosexual relationship be able to have children, and all these, there's so much, right? And I started doing interviews. I interviewed 25 different women and about a half a dozen men about their experiences, either as people trying to have children or people who've had children, even, and what they went through. And man, I just felt, the only way I can describe it is I really felt called and pulled to start a conversation and to strip away the shame about people's own individual choices when it comes to having children and what they go through if they choose to have children and run into problems. So just a very sensitive issue, and I wanted to capture as many stories as I could in an hour, right? Because nobody wants to do a solo show that's longer than 60 minutes if they don't have to. So I feel like I was able to capture a lot of what people aren't saying about the question of fertility.
So what are they saying? The people.
Well, first of all, it's way more
in
common.
broad strokes, you know.
Yeah, in broad strokes, it's way more common for women to have trouble getting pregnant than anyone would ever believe. I know for me, I even talk about it in the show, that I always lived under I was always so paranoid to be sexually active and accidentally get pregnant that I always thought, man, the minute you're off birth control, it's going to happen, right? And what I found when I ran into problems is that's not necessarily the case. And especially these days, as women are choosing to wait later into life to start families, it is not uncommon at all for people to run into problems. And miscarriages are incredibly common with first pregnancies. And a lot of women have to go through hormone treatments, and so do their partners in many cases. And then you get into the realm of adoption. And I know people at a conceptual level, they get that it's difficult and expensive. But when you really get into it, there's another story I share about, a couple who 3 times they went to hospitals to adopt a child that had been arranged, and the first 2 times the mothers changed their mind, and the birth parents, their rights always come first. That's just the reality.
Right.
And I always honored her, because I'm like, man, I don't think I would have made it to number 3. I think my heart would have been sufficiently broken, and the money and the time and the years that went by, I don't think I could have done it again. So those are and there's just so much. And I know for me, a lot of it came from, I had the experience of people be incredibly insensitive and quick to offer opinions about how to fix the problem that my husband and I don't have kids. And it really got me fired up to say, you might want to think before you open your mouth on that.
Right.
So hopefully this will just get people to stop for a minute and think about what they've already, what they expect when it comes to people having children.
Right. Actually, well, and I speak for my own too, because I happen to have a relationship with my partner, and but people are very quick to say, it's like, well, are you adopting? Are you going to get married? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And, yeah, like people have no right. First of all, I don't go around asking those questions. That's it's not only insensitive, but it's like it's my choice if I want to adopt, or if I want to have a kid, or not. And by now I'm 46, or 45, turning 46 this year. So I'm like, by now, if I don't have kids, I think I've made my peace. With the fact that I don't want to bring any more kids to the world. And my dad is like, he was the one that was more outspoken about it. He said, well, I'm not going to have any grandkids. And, what's that about? And I'm like, really? You can have your own another kid if you want to and call it a grandson, but I'm not going to do that for you.
I know, right? Well, that's the thing, is like there's all these, that's a perfect example of where there's this expectation to fulfill other people's expectations of what they want and how they want their life to look. And it's like, I don't think that parenthood should be something people do because it's the next thing up on a to-do list. Like, stop and actually look for yourself and your life and what you want to create with your partner, in the case that you're in a partnership, right, or in a marriage. Like, really look. What are you committed to for this human that you're bringing to the planet, and what does it fulfill for you? Why is it important to you? And I think it's great. Listen, I adore children. Don't get me wrong. I had always intended to have kids. It didn't ever occur to me that I wouldn't. And I love, and women, I shouldn't just say women, because I know men, like one of my friends, Dewan, is one of the most incredible parents I know. But the incredible parents I know, when it is their passion, you can tell. And I have so much love and respect for those people that have taken they honor what it is to be a parent, and it's beautiful. So I'm not against having children, and I'm not against being a parent, but I am against doing something because you're supposed to when it's something that important. You know, I feel like it needs to be a thoughtful choice, because we're not, I mean, we're not animals, and we don't just give in to our instinct to breed, you know, like just stop and look, like what is motivating it, you know. I mean, I even joke in the show about, I mean, I had a very real concern when it became clear that we would have trouble having kids. I'd have a thought like, well, who's going to take care of us when we're old? You know?
Oh my
like,
God. I was just writing these questions for you. Oh my God.
Yeah. Like, who's going to
I get that question all the
you?
time. It's like, right, the nurse. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I don't know. A home, and I get there's like this idea of the way family is supposed to look, and it just feels like it's been largely unexamined. And I hope that the show will honor that people have a right to choose what they choose about how they want to create family, what having children represents for them, the way that they want to do it, and that they also know that if it's something they really wanted and it's not happening for them, that they're not alone, that there is a huge community of people that have been in that same situation, and that they should feel free to talk about it and connect and get support.
And they should not be ashamed for not being fertile, or for, you know, or choosing not to have kids. You know, and because, like you said, you said a word earlier, and I'm like, ooh, let me circle this. Commitment. It's not only committing to your partner. It's also committing to the child's life, to be involved in his life for at least 20 years of his life or more, or forever. And it's not easy to commit to anything. I mean, let alone a kid, and let alone, you know, you have to. Your life changes. I've heard, you know, and I can understand how your life will change dramatically. 180 degrees, and maybe you don't want to change your life that drastically.
Yeah,
I don't.
And it's and you should never feel obligated, because that's actually an insult to the child anyway, to me. You know, if you're doing it out of obligation, that's a real cheat to that little one, because, you know, they're the ones that have to deal with you.
Feel.
Right.
They can feel when you don't want them, and they can feel that you're not really 100% happy with them, or they're ruining your life, or exactly.
That was another one I caught. I was at the birthday party of a little kid in my life that was turning 1, and one of the other mothers there, it shocked me to death, because of course when I'm at those events, people ask me, "Oh, you guys having kids?" I mean, it's inevitable, right?
Yeah.
And so we started to talk, and she shocked me, because she was like, I knew I shouldn't have had kids. I shouldn't have had kids. As she's looking at her 2-year-old who's toddling around, she's like, I knew in my heart that I wasn't cut out for this, and I'm just not. And my mouth was hanging open. I had never heard a woman say that out loud to someone. She didn't even know me. I mean, I had just met her, like, I don't know, 20 minutes before, and she's telling me all that this is a huge mistake. But I felt like I had to. And I just, because I'm looking at her and I'm looking at her son, and I don't know who I feel more sorry for, him or her.
Maybe the son.
Pretty miserable for both
kid.
of them. You know, I was like, this is awful. So, you know, I hope for her sake, you know, what my prayer would be for her is I hope that she, you know, finds peace around it and discovers the joy in it for herself, so that, you know, it's good for them both. But boy, pretty heavy.
Right. So what's the one question that people ask you whenever you tell them about your show? What's the first thing that comes to their mouth or their minds that you find funny?
There's always a pause, because it's just fertile, and they're like, what, you know? And they're like, so is this like, one of the things somebody said to me is, so is this like a woman's show? And I was like,
oh.
I guess. I mean, I guess so. I know plenty of men that have issues with their fertility and have sperm that don't do their job.
That's true.
But I guess.
You know what? I never thought of that. I never thought Well, I had, actually, the first thing that came to mind was, woman, motherhood, not
Yes.
fatherhood.
Yes.
To be
That's
honest.
people always go to motherhood first. They always go to motherhood first. It's and part of it's the reality of biology, right? I mean, here's the reality of biology. A man and a woman have sex, whether they intend to have a child or not. The one that's got the baby on board is the woman. So there's an inherent,
She's the mothership.
an implicit, literally the mothership. It's the responsibility immediately of that human body to deal with that other human body, right? So part of it's biological, and the other part is very much sociological, where because of the physical disconnect, men have sort of this ticket out. Like I remember when I worked, one of the men that I used to work for always used to talk about, I have to babysit my kids tonight. And it would drive me crazy because I'm like, you're not a babysitter, you're their father, and it is the care of those children is as much on you as it is on your wife.
Yeah,
why would you be a babysitter? So that's kind of the cultural piece of it. So it's such a, I'm telling you, Victor, this show could be, like I said, I'm not for solo shows. I think in general, 60 minutes tops. And this show could have gone 2 hours easily. If I had addressed everything I wanted to talk about, I'd have like 3 different shows happening about it, because it's a way more complicated thing. Like I said, there's way more to it than the birds and the bees. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would be another show, right?
That's right. That's right. This has been really hard for me to write. I mean, it's taken me 4 years for a reason, because it's such a hot button issue, and it's got so many taboo mores in it, and so many things that can activate and trigger people, that I wanted to be as fair as I possibly could, and I wanted to capture as many points of view as I possibly could, and I wanted to say what I had to say from my own experience. So it was an interesting balance to do that. So I'd say the show is shook out. It's about 70% me and 30% all the other information that's come in along the way. So that's, a lot of it's my own story of what my husband and I went through with a twist, because I wanted to capture a lot of what had nothing to do with us. So that it's been an
Well, don't give it away then. Don't give it away, because people want to, they should come and see it, because and then find out what the twist is. Although and I love them to see for themselves what they see about it too, because I know there's a lot of everybody's got some expectation about how it's going to go in the world of kids or not, and I'd love for them to be engaged in a conversation with this show, so they can really look for themselves and not feel like they're stuck with anything. And I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to say anything, but wouldn't it be funny if somebody were to say, "Oh, so the happy ending is what? That you got pregnant?"
Yeah, right.
That would probably
You're
be
like,
insensitive to say, right?
Kids now, right?
That was resolved, right? That problem was like, no, you didn't get the point
that's
at
the
all.
other thing too. When my director and developer, Jessica Lynn Johnson, who helped me with my first show, and it went great. I mean, my first show, I sold out 6 shows. I won the encore. I was nominated for Best Solo. I got to tour it quite a bit. I took it to New York, and so it was a no-brainer for me to work with Jessica again, because our partnership is effective, right?
Right.
But when we were talking about the ending, I was like, I am not interested in the ending for me and my husband. Like, I'm not interested in what Heather's ending is. What I'm interested in is an ending that leaves people thinking for themselves, not wondering what Heather and Mike did. So that's very much how it leaves. Yeah. It leaves it in a very different place, and it'll be interesting to see how people react to that. We'll see.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Maybe they can, they can probably post a reaction of the show, because I have a friend of mine, Bill Posley, and he has this thing where he records people's reactions once they leave the theater. And it's really interesting to hear their comments. And well, his show is about biracial. Growing up biracial, but of course every show that I attend at the Hollywood Fringe Festival has a message, and that or at least the good ones do, And I'm sure this one will be one of those. Jessica actually has great taste because I saw last year. I saw Squirrel.
Squirrel was
see a few
show.
shows from her. Yeah, it was a great show. And this year she's doing. I already interviewed. Somebody that was doing another show, walking on eggshells in stilettos.
Yeah, in stilettos.
And
yeah, Anna.
Yeah, she's doing her show, and then Stacy's doing a bit much. But
she's great too.
I don't know how
love her.
I don't know how many shows Jessica Lynch does every year.
I think this year it's 18. Last year it was 15. I think this year it's 18. And
wow.
It's extraordinary because solo performance is a very distinct format, and learning how to be effective telling stories in solo and performing solo is a very different animal. I know, I'm not living in the illusion. For most people, solo theater is kind of the second-hand citizen of Fringe compared to these big full cast productions and musicals and whatever or immersive, and I'm fine with that. But I think people really underestimate how powerful a well-done solo show can be. I know that I fell in love with the format out of seeing some incredible work over the years at Fringe and then outside of Fringe too. And when it is done well, it can be absolutely stunning. Yeah. And I get it. Just like any show, there are also ones that are not done well. But that's no different than any theater you see in LA, in my opinion.
Exactly. Besides, it's not a one person show. Honestly, it is not, because it takes a lot of people to do it. And like you say, it takes a great director to do it. Your husband's helping you. I'm sure your other family or friends are helping you. I'm even helping you somehow. And
well, you're helping me. All of my community of Fringe is all around me. Jessica's been helping. We work on this, like I said, it's been nearly 4 years for this to come to completion. My husband's working his tail off, helping me with all the graphics and the promotions. I've got a PR person, Jim Martica, who's awesome, that I'm working with to get the word out about the show. And then you've got the lounge. It's fantastic. I love Amber. She's so great. And she just connected me with her tech people that are so highly trained and just good at their jobs. Like, I know I'm in good hands. So yeah, it might be one person on stage, but in reality, the team that has to come together to have it happen is pretty sizable, to say the least.
Yeah. And I know this from experience. I'm like, it's not just a one person show, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of technical things going on, promotion going on. Director and promotion and all this stuff that I didn't know before I entered the theater community. And now I'm like, okay, I take my hat off for anybody. And I already said it before, but I might be doing one solo show next year, but I'm scared.
Yeah, but you know what? Let me tell you something. That's appropriate, because it's an incredibly vulnerable thing to be the one that's on the hook for the entire thing from start to finish. Like, once you get out there, it's up to you, right, to get the job done. But let me tell you this, my friend Victor, you've got to know, giving yourself permission to create something that's yours, that belongs to you, and sharing a story that's yours, and knowing that you can be empowered to do that whenever you want. Like, once you accomplish it, there are a few things I can compare it to that were more fulfilling, rewarding, and self-affirming, because it was like, if I can do that, forget it. Like, if I can get through that, there's not an audition room in Hollywood that's going to intimidate me. You know what I mean? Because it's such a level of ownership of your craft and your creativity. So I highly encourage it. I definitely think everybody, I love Jessica, and she's my number one, but there are other great solo coaches too, and developers, and I think it's really important to work with a good director.
I already chosen my director, by the way.
Woohoo!
I'm not gonna say.
You don't want to give anything away.
No. But I told him yesterday. I gave him a hug. I'm like, I want to talk to you later, after all this is all done, of course. But we still have to sit down, and we got to talk about it. And
go for it, my friend. You'll be glad you did.
it's already decided. So the universe. I'm looking at actually the picture of the universe as we're speaking. I have this big screen in front of me, and there's all these stars. So yeah, it's happening.
Oh
I
wow!
can see it.
Oh wow! You can
like,
do
it's
it.
like one of those,
Do
yeah, time travel things. I'm like, my future self is telling me, yeah, it's happening. See, right here. But anyways,
like whether you want to or not. Look, that's kind of how this show happened for me. I resisted it like crazy because I felt it was controversial and I felt it could, it could be, I might not be able to pull it off. And what if I don't? Blah blah blah. But sometimes the thing that wants to get said is gonna get said. It's gonna get said.
Right.
Awesome.
It actually. Well, before I forget, because it's already been half an hour already, so let me just get on to the details of the show, which we haven't covered yet. It's going to be at the Lounge Theater, Lounge number 2. The Lounge Theater has two stages, right? So it's going to be Lounge number 2, and it's going to be starting June 9th. The tickets are on sale now, so please get your tickets for Fertile, project number 5858. The link is below.
Yep.
Heather
I made it really
sounds
easy.
like a very nice.
Well, thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just fertileconversation.com. We'll take you right to it. And for all Fringe participants, it's pay what you can, because I know you're trying to see as many shows as you possibly can. And we all appreciate that. So it's a pay what you can for Fringers for every performance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're listening to this podcast, you heard it first. And then what else am I forgetting? Oh, hashtags. How do people follow you?
Fertile Conversation.
Okay. And then you have your another Instagram or Facebook pages?
Yeah.
Or...
people can follow me personally for sure at Says Heather, both on Twitter and on Instagram, and all the info about the shows there too. And you can find my professional actor page on Facebook if you just look for Heather Dowling, and you'll see the Fertile logo all over the place. It'll be very hard to miss.
Yes, right.
Right.
But yeah, there's like you said, there's so many shows, and it's going to be 400 shows. So, you want to get this one out of the way first.
Yeah,
and
come and get it. And I already for the first show for the preview on June 9th at 2 in the afternoon, I've already sold 20 some seats. So, I think with only 3 shows, if it's something that interests people, I'd jump on it, because I think it's getting some traction, and I would love to have people come out and see. So.
Yeah, and it's going to be let's see, it'll be 3 shows, right? So it's only 3 shows. So you already it's half the theater's already been sold out. Not sold out.
For the one,
sold. Cool. Yeah, so let me get mine today then.
Oh yay! You're totally.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Be sure you do pay what you can, and I really mean that, because I get it. Everybody, I know already. I've already got 10 different shows booked, and then I've got a huge stack of postcards that I'm trying to build in between, in and around those 10. So I know it can add up.
Right.
And then I just really want to thank you, Victor, for having me on. I really do appreciate it that you're highlighting Fringe, and that I got to be one of the ones who got to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for calling, and I'm going to play a song that I was actually researching earlier, and actually I think it's very suitable for the topic. It's called The Waiting, sorry, by Jamie Grace, and I think it's I don't know if you ever heard it, but when I was researching,
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, then we'll just play it and hear it.
Okay.
And
thank
you again.
Thank
By
you,
the way, for those that are listening, please like my page on Facebook, and then follow me on Facebook, like it, share it. Please spread the word. And
Absolutely.
Here is Jamie Grace with The Waiting.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Hit the record button.